Today we work on this 1981 Panther just in time for it to be 65 degrees in January. Well, check that out. After a little bit of cleanup, that Panther turned out pretty nice. Even the skis are solid. It's like a prime example of a sled that was kept indoors for most of its life, and then over the last few years it got put outside and it was just completely neglected. So it's not terrible overall, but definitely got dirty. It's gonna need a bit of work. Gotta figure out what's going on with the suspension, if there's anything other than just the idler wheels. The worst part though is under the hood. There's been a lot of mice living under here. A lot of mice. Even in the clutch, there's a mouse nest in there. So that's going to require some work for sure. But the motor rolls over pretty good, and we've sprayed it with oil and everything, so hopefully it's solid mechanical wise. Just needs some cleanup. I mean, it's missing a carburetor, and unfortunately it's one of those Mikuni butterflies that are terrible. So we're going to have to source one of those. I also see that the oil injection's still hooked up. We're probably not going to maybe use that until we verify that it's working. Just so many mouse nests. I mean, I don't know if this thing was sitting next to a cornfield or what, but boy, they really took up residence in it. Kill switch is MIA, so we'll have to rig something up there. Even a mouse nest down in the fan housing. So here it is in the shop, ready to go under the knife. And believe it or not, there's actually no snow outside waiting. We're trying to preemptively strike and get this thing repaired. So after vacuuming like 10 pounds of mouse crap and, you know, nut shells and everything else out of here, we got it mostly clean. I don't know, for being a cat, the mice really loved this thing. And I just realized we got a minor problem. Now just one of these wouldn't be a showstopper. However, the kill switch is gone, and we're missing the key for the ignition. So we have no way to shut this thing off. Yeah, not much has changed under there. Not sure if we'll try and leave the oil injection in its current form. Just mark it and see if it uses any oil while using some mixed gas. It's probably what we'll try right off the bat. I am slightly impressed that they use a full-size battery tray in this thing. So you can use a cheap, you know, utility lawn and garden battery instead of one of them special motorcycle ones. I doubt this thing's any good, but you know, it's not cracked, it's split. We'll throw it on the charger, see if we can use it. Well, here's something interesting. This actually still has the cable-driven tachometer. Now, I used to have, well, I still do, it's sitting out back, a 1980 Panther that I trail rode at one point, and I remember trying to put a tachometer onto this sled. Now, the problem with trying to go with a traditional electronic tach, it reads the impulses from the charging circuit, and that's how it, you know, you get your reading on the tach. A lot of the sleds are 2 pulse or 3 pulse or 6 pulse, and that's, you know, that many charging pulses per revolution of the motor. I'm pretty sure this thing has this weird stator for these model years that is a 12 pole or a 12 pulse system. Good luck trying to find a tachometer that can read that. There's maybe only some boat tachometers, I think. They're pretty hard to get, so I guess it was cheaper for them to develop a cable-driven kit to scab onto this motor to have a working tachometer, you know, rather than actually develop or specially make a 12 pulse tach. Well, after a short trip through the junkyard at night while raining, we were able to come up with part of a trunk that has the taillight lens in it. Found a key. It actually works, so that's good. And we got a couple of idler wheels out of the barrel back there. Heck, I think those bearings might even still be good. Now I've had this bag of bushings like hanging on the wall for I don't know how long, just waiting for the chance to actually need one. But up until now, they've never been the right size. Well, turns out, even though it's Polaris, these are just the bushings we need to get those idler wheels onto the aluminum shafts. So I was kind of wondering what the fuel line was doing hanging out here. And it turns out back in there is where the fuel grommet should be, and it's not. There was a piece of fuel line literally just shoved down in there. And judging by the smell of the gas, this thing's a solid 10 years of poor storage since it's ran. So judging from the fuel system, that's pretty screwed up, and you know, the carburetor's completely MIA. It looks like this was somebody's project that they got started, tried to fix it, you know, either lost the carburetor or forgot about it, and it was eventually abandoned. Which is kind of a shame, since, you know, the rest of the sled looks like it had been very well maintained and taken care of up until then. I mean, this is a fairly common sled, so it's not like it's a rare collector's piece or anything like that, but always a shame to see really nice original survivors kind of, you know, get put out the pasture. Yeah, just a hair over 2,000 miles on it. Nothing really good in the toolbox. Rusty set of side cutters and some electrical tape. And of course a mouse nest. The mice even started eating the electrical tape. I really hope this thing isn't like a wiring nightmare with everything being chewed apart. Gotta wash the tank with a rag on a stick. This is kind of taking forever. So we were able to source another carburetor off a parts engine. It's these blasted Mikuni, you know, butterfly carbs, which are not good, but that's what came on this engine, and I don't really feel like trying to convert everything over to a slide carb and deal with the jetting, so we'll see if we can get this thing working. Things look surprisingly decent in there. I'm pretty sure this engine and where this carburetor came off was a running sled when it was parked, so that's a good sign at least. So on these carbs, most of the adjustments are done through the top side of it, not down in the bottom here. You take off this plate and there's a gasket underneath there, and once you pull that off, you'll find that there's a tube that goes down through the center of the carb. So the jet on the right side there, I guess, is your pilot. The one on the left is the main, and that's where the tube goes down through. Keep track of how many turns in that air screw is. You turn it in, bottom it out before you take it apart. So there's the tube that comes out the center, and you can see it has porting along its length. You need to be careful with this, but also make sure it's thoroughly cleaned out. And there's one more jet too, though, right in there. So we finally got the tank swabbed out, and that's ready to go. Carburetor's back together. And we finally got the clutch off. It put up a little bit of a fight, but we got it pulled. Now, unfortunately, that clutch is going to need some major rehab to get it working again. The mice that got in there got it kind of froze up and rusted internally. So I was able to pull the clutch off of the parts motor I got, and that one's still in half decent shape. Now, I thought these motors were the same because they look the same from up top. However, if you look around the crankshaft there, you can see that the case is kind of has an extra provision for some bolts, whereas this motor is a different case style down there. There must have been a division like in 1980 or something and up where they changed the case style. Well, okay, obvious thing is there's no oil injection on this one, so I guess that's why they changed and updated the cases. Even the hex clutches changed. So when they changed the case, they were able to put the starter ring outside on the clutch rather than over on the mag side. This older clutch doesn't have provisions to bolt the starter ring gear onto it. Who needs electric start anyways? Now we came really close to using some new parts on this thing, but then we came to our senses and went rummaging through the old tank pile, and we found a pretty mint fuel line here with good grommets, a good pickup, and you know, this is the good fuel line that lasts for decades, so I'm going to put that back in. That's perfect. So the carb boot's still not bad yet. You know, there's no leaks from the outside, you know, through to the inside yet. However, you can see that the rubber on the outside was starting to deteriorate and the aluminum flange on the inside is corroding. So we're going to do some preventative maintenance with the good old 3M weather strip adhesive. This stuff's great for the external surfaces of carb boots. It doesn't hold up the gas real well. You know, you can't put it inside, but it keeps it from dry rotting. It strengthens it, and it you know, keeps the elements out when used externally. I mean, I use this stuff on everything. It's like a great contact cement. It dries quick and it's relatively strong. It's not the cheapest stuff, but it does work well, and they give you a good cap on here, so it seals it off well, and you can use it for quite a long time, you know. So we got the oil pump linkage hooked back up. So you got the throttle cable back working. Well, I would say that the previous owner definitely got their money's worth out of this belt. So, time to put something fresh on. We rummaged through the random belt pile and came up with a few candidates. We'll see which one meets the cut. Well, it looks like the old Power Thrust Super Duty came out the winner. That one's even brand new. We'll get a fresh set of used plugs in there. Got the track tensioned up, and the idler wheels were installed. Well, the Panther needed a new headlight bulb, so, you know, instead of going new, we went to the salvage yard. Got this fine specimen of a headlight here, of an old Cheetah. I think you clean the mildew off of that, she'll be good to go. Well, there it is, mostly back together. Doesn't really look a whole lot different right now, but we're going to see if we can get it to fire up. So we hit the tank with some air to get the gas flowing into the carb. And we marked the oil tank here to see if the level drops after it gets ridden a while. Make sure the oil pump's working. Other than that, I guess we'll see what happens. Key is on. Better get some gloves for this. Might have to cheat. Hopefully that throttle safety thing's not messing us up. Cheating time. Well, it just needs a little bit of fuel. I guess we found the remnants of the mouse nest we didn't quite get out of there. Wants to go. Getting there. I wonder if the fuel pump's not working. Whoops. So we figured it might be a good idea to check the fan shroud out. Yeah, good thing we did.